spent the past couple of years in a crazy hot market. Louisville home sales decline as demand outpaces supply. Effective communication is at the core of any situation. If you master these two ideas, you'll have a chance of being successful at residential real estate marketing. I think you need to be looking for investment opportunities that move the needle. The market will never crash if demand exceeds supply. This is what I've been telling you all along.
This is the Jay Pitts Show.
And we're back, folks. Welcome back to the Jay Pitts Show. Talk Radio 1080. We are back. Excited, alive, or I should say alive and excited as a former...
you can be excited to be alive.
Well, you can be excited to be alive. You should be excited to be alive. What's the point otherwise?
Yeah.
Alive, excited, and full of energy is what a former mentor of mine used to say. I found it a little hokey most of the time he said it, but I can understand. You know, it kind of goes back to when people ask me how I'm doing, I have an answer. Most people say I'm fine or I'm okay. I say I'm doing fantastic or amazing. Like I try to really amp up the energy in that moment because I think it's a moment that you get the opportunity to make an impact on somebody. So anyway, without going too deep into that, I am alive, excited, and full of energy. Ryan may not be so full of energy, but he is.
I am.
He is excited. I can tell. If you can't tell, this is Ryan being excited. No, I'm here on Talk Radio 1080. Welcome back to the show. My co-host, Mr. Ryan Harris, is here. He's got a great show lined out for us. Ryan, you want to tell him about what we're going to talk about today?
Yeah. But first, people do say that. Like, my face never really changes. It's hard to read me sometimes, is what people say. So I don't know if that comes through in the show or not, but I do try to change what I'm thinking or feeling, but it's hard for me.
I do hear more inflection in your voice when we're behind the microphone.
Okay, that's
slightly more.
The face probably doesn't change, though.
Well, you know, I mean, Hannah's got the camera on you. We can go back and analyze.
I analyze myself enough. So.
Speaking of which, you can find the show almost on any of our social channels. Specifically, you can find it on YouTube, full episodes, of course. You're going to probably catch some snippets in our Instagram and our other social media weekly. We do try to put those out. Hannah tries to pick the moments where we sound most coherent and put those out with some fun music, sometimes some nice little GIFs and emojis to make for comedic relief. But yeah, you can find us on the socials. We got to get that plug in there.
Yeah, for sure. But no, we have a good show coming up. I have a random story I want to tell you about. It's a pretty wild story, so we'll start with that. We'll go into story from the field like we do every week. We're going to talk about how a high percentage of renters don't believe home ownership will ever happen for them. We're going to talk about the White House AI meeting, First Republic bank failure. We had another bank fail. Tucker Carlson is relaunching his show on Twitter. And then I have a question at the end for you, and it involves an animal in your bare hands. It's not that bad, people, but you'll have to wait to the end of the show for that one.
No need to reach out to PETA now. This is hypothetical, I'm presuming.
I hope it's hypothetical. I guess it could come true at some point.
I do love that as I glance at the show rundown, Ryan, it has random story I have. That's the topic. All right, let's go. Without further ado, we've teased that one enough.
All right, so one of my friends was telling me the story a couple days ago. It happened to him. So he just bought a Tesla about a month ago. I really hope I set this story up well because it is a crazy story. But anyways, he bought a Tesla about a month ago. And do you know what Turo is?
Turo? Turo? The car rental app.
Correct.
Turo.
Yes.
Turo. Yes.
Turo.
And
Okay.
I've used it multiple times. I'm a fan.
All right. So he signed his car up for Turo.
Sorry, I didn't mean to correct you, but you had me thinking of El Toro, which is a local tech company. So
he signed it up sometime last week, I think. And his first one ever booking, lady came and got the car, and he started noticing on his app, or I guess the Tesla, you have an app that you can track where your car is always. He started noticing it kept getting farther and farther and farther away from Louisville. Ends up in Atlanta. So the car goes all the way to Atlanta. He calls the lady, and the lady's like, sorry, I gave it to my brother. And then it turns out his car was involved in an arrest in Atlanta, and it was in the impound lot. So first booking ever with his brand new Tesla he's been waiting months for. that he signed up for Turo and gets a hold of the impound lot, I guess the police station, and finds out there was actually involved in a shooting.
Oh, wow.
So involved in a shooting, but there was only one bullet hole in the back of the car, went through the trunk, hit the guy driving his car.
No.
Yep. So it's stuck in Atlanta right now. They won't release it yet. So
He's still making payments.
Well, yeah.
Did he pay cash? Either way.
I don't know. But
doesn't have his vehicle that he just paid.
Doesn't have his vehicle he just paid for. Can't get it. He might have to go to Atlanta and get it himself, but he's trying to hold out because so when you sign up for it, I guess the Turo has their own insurance, and then the person getting the car has to get insurance for it. So they're trying to figure all that out, and they would tow it back to him for free. No telling. I feel like there's a movie where somebody's car gets stolen and they find it.
This is so random. Okay, so I am a huge fan of Turo. We've used it. We've talked about it on the show. Maybe not. I didn't speak about Turo, but I mean, my wife and I rented a Model S Plaid off Turo in Las Vegas a couple of years ago to drive to the Grand Canyon. I thought, if I'm going to spend 6 hours on a day of my vacation in a vehicle, it might as well be a pretty ridiculously awesome vehicle. And so it was expensive. And yeah, you have the option to layer on insurance as the user. Most people, I guess, opt out. That would be my guess.
It's weird they don't make you.
Your car insurance, if you have car insurance, if you're a vehicle owner and you have car insurance, does extend some coverage there. It'd be the same as borrowing anybody's vehicle or, a rental car. You have a rider typically on your car insurance. But Turo is basically like the Airbnb for cars. And I know I follow a couple people on Twitter that have fleets.
It's their whole business.
They have a fleet.
Luxury cars.
Luxury
especially
cars.
In Miami and Vegas.
Minivans and Disney, around Disney is a big one because people fly in and some people leave the property and they have, they provide car seats and they do all these that professionally install them. It's pretty crazy. It's a cottage industry, that's for sure. But this is when Turo goes wrong, right? I can picture
your first one, too.
Your very first ride. I mean, it'd be like having an Airbnb, buying a short-term rental, and then your first booking burns the place down.
Which I'm sure there are those stories
happens.
out there.
Guarantee it happens.
I guarantee there's blood in his car, too. I mean, if the guy got shot.
He's got a whole bullet hole through his
Just
seat.
One, too.
All right.
I'm like, this sounds like a really prepared hitman or something.
Now I fully understand why you put random story I have.
Yeah, how could I explain that on the show notes?
You couldn't. You absolutely couldn't. Well, kick off with a bang there. How are we going to follow this up with story from the field?
Yeah, we probably won't get all the way through it, but that's okay. We'll get through some of your answer to this question and then bring it back in the next segment. But this agent wants to know, what is a buyer's agency agreement, Jay, and why does your team not choose to use them?
Yeah. Okay, so I have to be a point of clarity. I do have to add one word to the explanation of that agreement. Everyone must use a buyer's agency document. Maybe not an agreement. Maybe that's where we go wrong here. But exclusive buyer agency agreement is essentially a listing contract for a buyer. So when you sign a listing agreement with a seller, you are the only real estate agent to represent that seller. As long as it's an exclusive right to sale. There are such things as open listings where a seller can list with multiple brokers and all brokers are working and the person that procures the sale is the one that gets paid. Those are not popular, probably because none of the brokers work real hard because they expect that the other one's going to get the business. So exclusive buyer agency is like an exclusive right to sell listing. That buyer is not going to buy without you. If they do, you're still owed a commission. So if the commission does not come from the transaction, the commission is owed directly by the buyer, and you can actually put a lien on the property they purchase for your commission if it does not get paid. Why do we not use exclusive buyer agency agreements? It's because I believe in inspiring people to work with us, not forcing people to work with us. In most cases, in my experience, the ick factor is just not worth it. Right? Yes, there are situations where I wish we were protected, where we get used and abused. But I think those risks go both ways. There are plenty of situations where a client, a consumer, signs an exclusive buyer agency agreement with an agent after a consultation, not knowing the full extent of what they're signing, thinking it's something else. It's some legalese. It's part of the process. It's a formality. And then they're woefully disappointed at that agent's execution, that agent's acumen, their experience, and they want to move on, but they are locked.
Yeah, and just to clarify,
For 6 or
Jay,
12
so
months.
what this agreement is, if I'm a buyer and an agent has me sign this sheet of paper, it means I can't work with any other agent except this one.
Absolutely. Well, you can, but that agent is getting paid no matter what. So the effect is, yes, you're locked into working with that agent. If you work with another agent, you not only have to compensate the agent you're working with, or that agent that you're working with gets compensation from the transaction, but then you simultaneously have to, out of your own pocket, not the seller's pocket, out of your own pocket as a buyer, have to compensate the agent you signed the contract with. So there's a lot of ick factor there, right?
Got it. Yeah, we'll get into why your team doesn't use these and why you don't like them. But that's it for this segment. We're going to cut to a couple ad sponsors, and we'll be back with your answer and talking about why renters believe homeownership will never happen. Talk Radio 1080, Real News, Real Talk, Jay Pitt Show. Welcome back to the Jay Pitt Show. I'm your co-host, Ryan Harris. Talk Radio 1080, Real News, Real Talk. All right, Jay, we were just talking about exclusive buyer's agency agreements and why your team doesn't use them. And we kind of really got into what they are, and you started diving into why you don't use them. But let's talk a little bit more about that. I think we both probably have something to say on why the team doesn't use them. So yeah, let's go.
Well, I said it before the break, and I'll elaborate more now. I don't like the idea of forcing someone to work with me. I don't like the technicality associated. I think there's too much at stake. Right? I mean, we're talking about, and it's become somewhat cliche, but it's the largest financial investment most people make. And I think, they ought to be in control of that. They ought to work with you because you've inspired them to do so, right? You've shown them, and I had a recent video that Hannah did where I was talking to agents in one of our meetings, where I said, consumers ask themselves 3 questions. A lot of these things I'll repeat over and over. I've probably said this on the show before, but it's because they're worth repeating. There's power in the simplicity of these things. There's 3 questions. Do I like you? They usually answer that question within 30 seconds. Do I trust you? You have to earn that trust, and sometimes it takes time. So if you answer yes to do I like you, you usually get an opportunity to earn trust. If the answer to do I trust you is yes, then they ask themselves, are you good at what you do? Do I like you? Can I trust you? And are you good at what you do? If you can be trusted and you can express to the client without patting yourself on the back too much or becoming obnoxious that you're good at what you do, you're going to inspire them to work with you. And the thing is, the result of all of this is that 70% roughly of consumers only ever take a face-to-face meeting with one agent. So 7 out of 10, can answer yes to those 3 questions with the first person they meet, right? And so why, understanding those very simple facts, why would I force someone to work with me by signing a piece of paper? Why would I risk losing the can I trust you by forcing them to sign a form that, number one, most agents don't have them sign. Most agents, for a variety of reasons, some don't have the guts to ask. I've got the guts to ask. I don't find it to be valuable. And so I encourage my agents not to go there. Now, if you feel like on a case-by-case or one-off it's necessary, I'll support that. But I'll probably ask you as one of my agents, why are you working with somebody that you don't trust well enough to do what they say they're going to do? I very much operate on a, fool me once, shame on you, fool me twice, shame on me kind of, philosophy. Right? You're smiling. Seem like you've heard that before.
I was thinking of the rap song. You probably have heard it too.
Who is it?
I can't even remember, but I know the line next that I cannot say on the radio show.
Okay. It's not coming to mind at the moment. You'll have to tell me at the break. But yeah, fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, shame on me. Right? So I'll give anybody the chance to be dishonest with me once. And that's just a personal judgment. That's a personal choice for me. I'd rather be that guy than be somebody who's so skeptical that I think I'm going to get burned by every client I meet.
Yeah. I saw you post that on socials this week that 70% of people only meet with one agent. That blew my mind. I didn't even know that. I figured it would have been lower than that. But it's probably because when you're an agent, what sticks out in your mind the most are the clients that
Are difficult
and which just because you want to talk to multiple agents, that doesn't mean you're difficult.
No.
Like, that's not what that means. But a lot of the times, those do end up being difficult clients.
Well, we are very much, a contact sport, right? And we're our business is handling very personal things for people. There's nothing more personal than where your kids sleep, right? Where you propose to your wife, the home you bring your first child home to. Like, those are things that are ingrained in people, right? Those are feelings. Those are not thoughts. Those are more than memories. And we help people. I'm not saying we make the memories, but we are intimately involved. We go into your home and tell you not to leave your underwear on the floor for a showing. I mean, let's be real.
And not everybody listens.
And not everybody listens, and not everybody has to be told, but a lot of people do, believe it or not. So it's personal, Ryan. It's personal. So, like, I just think you have to understand that when you do what we do. There has to be a certain amount of empathy, a certain amount of understanding. There has to be some really good communication, and there has to be some dispensation. People that want to keep things very straight and narrow and business-like, I think, lose in our industry because there's no feeling, there's no soul to it. Like, I can meet somebody with the experience I have and the problems I've solved, and I can just get where they're at and understand and make suggestions that are in line. And that's why experience works so well in this business. Why people don't understand.
I was just going to say, I think you can be a great agent. Don't get me, no great agents out there who don't own a home yet. But I do think once you've owned a home, you've lived there with your family, you do start to become more sympathetic to people's situations. I feel like as I've got older and done that, like, I've noticed it in myself more.
Yeah. I think there's not enough made of first time selling. Everybody talks about first time buying. First time selling is a thing.
And I just went through that. And
so, like, having people walk through your home that you've made, listening to them on the Ring camera talk about how hideous your wall art is, or why did they buy that color couch? It shows so much dog hair. Or, you know what I mean? Like, where are we going to put an office? Like, when you have an office and you're like, well, that office is good enough for me. Why is it not good enough for them? What am I missing? It's this intensely personal process that can make you feel very attacked, and honestly, realtors, you mentioned you just went through it. Realtors are sometimes the worst. We tell people how to handle these things, but then we don't handle them the way that we instruct our clients. So again, it's kind of all like comes back to why someone needs to work with somebody they know, like, and trust. And how can you know for sure that they really want to work with you when you've contractually obligated them to it?
Do you think like and trust is kind of the same thing?
No, I don't. I think there is a quality of inherent likability. I think there are people that have that.
I was going to say, I think it depends on who the person is. 'Cause I know, I'll say for myself, I won't like you if I don't trust you.
I got that. I think it's a matter of sequence. So I'm never gonna care whether I can trust you if I don't like you, right? So I can be fooled into liking someone. I think that's actually relatively easy to fool someone. I mean, there's lots of ways in mirror and match and NLP, and that's neuro-linguistic programming for those of you studying at home. Google it and it'll blow your mind. There's all ways of being likable, engineering likability. But I think there's another layer. You have to earn trust. And so way I do it, and I instruct our agents, is to point out flaws in a home during a showing. Talk about in a listing appointment, talk about a tough situation and how you helped your client prevail. Really instruct and illustrate how you've had your clients back. I think actually, can I trust you in practice, and how you illustrate somebody's ability to trust you comes a lot closer to, are you good at what you do? Because the things that you do well are what gain you the trust.
Yeah,
but it's all real hand in hand.
Yeah, and I was just thinking about something. I think agents who work with their friends or family probably have to work harder than with any other client to earn trust, because those people have probably seen you at your worst and your best and seen all the stupid things you've done at any point in your life. So that's probably in the back of their minds. So I think you actually have to work harder to earn trust when you're working with friends and family.
So I can take that a step further, I think you're exactly right, but it goes beyond that. I think we undersell. Okay, the worst thing that you could be called in real estate is a salesperson, right? So real estate agents love the opportunity to have a client that they don't feel like they need to sell to. And usually that's the people that you have the closest personal relationship with, because they give you some latitude, right? But what we end up doing is we undercommunicate, and we don't tell them what we do to get results. And so then when results don't come immediately, you really run the risk of coming off lazy, disinterested, dejected as an agent, which is the last thing. So
especially you don't want to do that if something goes wrong in the deal.
No, absolutely not. Like, I make the people close to me entertain a presentation. They have to consume one of my presentations. I may alter it based on their personality, based on how I know them, but they need to hear what we do to be successful, so that they understand that I'm not just sitting over here twiddling my thumbs waiting for the MLS to sell their property. Because I cannot risk a good, close personal relationship over that misunderstanding. So I think real estate agents often make a big, big mistake in thinking, oh, this is a come list me call. I'm going to go shake hands and kiss babies and walk out with a signed contract and put a sign in the yard and wait for the phone to ring.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, your friends and your family deserve just as good service as you're providing everybody else. But that's all we have for segment 2. I said we would get to talking about why 72% of renters would not believe in home ownership this segment. We didn't get to it, but I promise we'll start with the next segment. This is the Jay Pitt Show, Talk Radio 1080. I'm your co-host, Ryan Harris. Real news, real talk.
Welcome back to the Jay Pitt Show here on 1080, Talk Radio 1080, I should say. Real news, real talk. I'm here with Ryan Harris. We finished up last segment talking about a lengthy discussion about buyer agency agreements, or exclusive buyer agency agreements. Why yes, why no? Mainly why no.
If you had an agent or 10 agents in a room about any topic, I think they could talk about it all day.
I guarantee it.
That'd be a great show. Just put a camera in the middle of the room and have 10 agents talk about something.
It's like Big Brother real estate.
Yeah.
Big Brother just lock them in a room. The person who runs out of breath first gets ejected.
Speaking of a good show, we were talking about this, my wife and I, because while we were moving, I can't believe there's no reality shows following like moving companies around and like all the stuff they have to deal with.
So I had a it's funny you mentioned that, because I got a referral yesterday, had a nice conversation with a lady that has worked with a real estate agent in the past to purchase. We talked about the difference between buying and selling. This perfectly illustrates that. Really good on the buy side. Really grating on the list side so far. They have no contract signed. They've had a couple of consultations. She's really not feeling it. Feels very attacked. There's poor communication from the agent, putting down the property, nitpicking about dust, and anyway, all the things. So throughout the process, she found the need to declutter a bit and hired a moving company to come and box some things up, take them to a storage unit. And the owner of the moving company is a real estate broker. And I thought when she told me that, that's a phenomenal idea. That is, if I were running a moving business as an entrepreneur, I wouldn't want to be packing boxes, or carrying them necessarily. I would want employees that were, better at that than myself. So I would work on the business, but then what better a lead generation mechanism than a moving company? People call you when they're about to move.
Yeah. I feel like, though, nowadays people don't think about the moving company until the last second.
It's possible. But I don't think it would be your business guy. You're building a startup. I don't think it would be that.
Figure it out.
I don't think it would be that hard to convince people that they should consult with a mover ahead of their move.
No, not at all.
Especially if there were lead generation for other. Anyway, that's digress. All right, let's get to this BAM article.
Yeah, I promised we'd get to it, so we have to do it. So this is actually, it was on Broke Agent Media, but it's an article from Home Bay. So Home Bay surveyed 1,000 renters across the United States to gauge their sentiments about the current housing market.
Yeah.
And 72% of renters from this report believe that home ownership will never be a reality for them. And while 85% still aspire to achieve this dream of owning a home, for many, it feels like winning the lottery is the only feasible way to make it happen. So my first thought, I would love to know where these 1,000 renters from across the United States are from.
I think major metros probably. I don't know where Home Bay is located. I would imagine it's fairly close. I think there's a lot of recency bias going on here.
Home Bay sounds like it's a
Bay Area,
San Francisco,
San Fran, which one of the worst performing real estate markets in the country. I think there's a lot of recency bias at play here. Like, we've just endured a substantial rate hike environment. Most people are woefully, as we've illustrated in past episodes, most people are woefully uninformed about what's actually happening in the real estate market. I still see the haters. I still see the trolls in my socials on the daily. When I tell them that the market's not crashing, they just like, oh, self-serving real estate agent. Oh. And it's just like, no, I gain nothing from telling you the truth. Right? I mean, the people that are going to buy and sell are going to buy and sell with or without me saying the truth. So the point is we've gone through a number of market forces, market changes of late that really kind of, I think, hit the new home buyer kind of market, the renter market very hard. And it makes them feel very little optimism with respect to their own personal financial situation. So this is not entirely surprising to me.
Yeah, the survey participants cited inflation and interest rates, like you mentioned, as the main reasons for the lack of affordable homes. But I kind of want to go over some of the other stats. So they asked them more than just, do they think they'll ever own a home? I think there's some pretty eye-opening and contradictory statistics in this. So the ones that popped out to me, 35% of renters say owning a home is not part of the American dream anymore, including 28% who say it used to be but isn't anymore. 38% seems like a high number. I don't know what it used to be or if there's been studies on that in the past, or I guess 35%, but it still seems significant.
So the presumption here is that the number who used to think home ownership was not part of the American dream was 7%. And that has increased 28% to 35%. I think that delta is the most concerning thing.
Yeah. There's another one here. 73% of renters say they can't afford to put any money toward a down payment, which I think leads into a pretty good discussion that we can have. You don't necessarily need a ton of money for a down payment to buy a home, depending on where you live.
No, but you need some money. You need some money to buy a house. Even if it's not for a down payment, you need money for earnest money. You need money for an inspection and appraisal. And to be honest, as I operate and function as a real estate broker of both a residential property management firm and a real estate sales organization, it's not easy to get people in lower income brackets to come up with even security deposits on rentals. Pressure on security deposits is way down. These large scale apartment complexes, even the really nice ones, have very small deposits. They've sacrificed deposits for higher occupancy rates.
Is that because there's so much competition out there?
I think probably. I think it has something to do with it. But with my type of management, scattered site homes, mostly houses, there's not a lot of competition out there. There's very little on the market, and we're still just people. I mean, we've talked in recent episodes about drastic increases in credit debt. I mean, things like that, credit card debt, revolving debt. I don't know. I mean, wages not keeping pace with inflation may be a culprit, but there's something here. And that to me is a little bit alarming.
Yeah. And then the last thing I wanted to bring up. So let's see. 51% of renters say owning a home is very important to them. Behind being debt free is 71%. So this is funny to me because that contradicts each other. Like, you're going to not be debt free if you own a home.
I think it portends a misunderstanding of what it means to be debt free. I think most people don't
include their houses. They don't
include mortgage debt. I will say without we have to run the risk of moving on a little bit here, but 1 in 4 renters, 24%, say they spend more than half their income on housing.
Yeah, I saw that. That one stood out. I mean,
knowing that now it's gross income, but knowing that 41% is the threshold for FHA on your housing, not your housing, but your back end, what we call your back end debt ratio. 41% of gross income. They're probably calculating on net, so I suppose that makes sense. But when you read it that way, it's kind of shocking.
Yeah, it is. All right, let's move on real quick. On to the White House and AI. AI has been a massive topic lately, only going to get bigger because, well, it's AI and it's changing the world right now. But the vice president and senior administration officials met with CEOs of 4 American companies last week on Thursday. I believe it was Google, Microsoft, OpenAI. Can't remember the 4th company, but it's just kind of funny what they had on there to talk about. So, given the role these CEOs and their companies play in American AI innovation ecosystem, the administration officials wanted to have them in to talk about, doing right with AI and making sure it's safe and they're not doing anything wrong and letting the general public know what they're doing and what they've learned. And the reason it's so funny to me, I feel like that's just you waving your finger at your kid, like, don't go eat that, or like, don't go play in the mud. And they're absolutely just going to say, okay. Go do it.
It's all out of touch, man. I mean, I don't think anybody is capable of understanding the full implication of AI. It is in and of itself, the iterations that have come to light in the last 12 months even are so mind-boggling. Your imagination can literally run away with you. And I just think, I think government is not the place to hash this out. You're not going to put the genie back in the bottle, and you were never going to keep it in the bottle in the first place. Nobody has ultimate culpability. I think, we've heard Elon Musk come out with some issues with OpenAI and especially the business strategies and how he contributed $1 billion. He claimed $1 billion to a non-for-profit company that is now a private entity and profit focused. Yeah. There's some issues in how you do it, but the White House is not the place to have commentary.
Yeah, so I have another thing on Google for you. It's something actually they just did that affected my company, Simba. So Google launched their own scheduling technology, and they basically opted everybody in with Gmail accounts to opting out of third-party calendar invites. So we use Calendly at Simba, and we had a lot of demos scheduled with team leaders and real estate agents, and they didn't show up on anybody's calendar when this changed, and they all missed it. So now we're going to have to figure a workaround, or we're going to have to use Google and Google Meets for everything now.
So basically,
it's anti-competitive.
It is absolutely anti-competitive. But the default
is opting out.
The default is opt out.
Yes.
So I have this happen with Apple all the time, pretty regularly. We'll talk about that more, in the fourth segment if you want. But anti-competitive practices are fairly prevalent amongst these large tech giants. So anyway, we'll come back right after the break. Again, Jay Pitts, the Jay Pitts Show, Talk Radio 1080, Real News, Real Talk. Welcome back, folks. Welcome back to the Jay Pitts Show on Talk Radio 1080, Real News, Real Talk. So just before the break, Ryan and I were talking about anti-competitive practices in big tech. Personal example, right? Ryan's talking about the Calendly,
Any third party.
Yeah, any
scheduling.
third party scheduling.
That's not Google.
That's not Google. Got an automatic opt out on calendar entries to display in your Gmail calendars. So one of the things I have an issue with is iOS updates. Okay, so we've talked about it. I'm retentive. I'm anal retentive about iOS updates and like turning off notifications and preserving, focus time and lack of distraction. And you have an app that you like, right, that you may have used at one point for one thing, but you've decided to limit your use for whatever reason. But now Apple will reset defaults every time there's an update. Not just iOS updates. Sometimes it's even app updates. So basically, I download 123 app, 123 ABC app, and I say, I don't want that app to give me red dots when I have a notification. I don't want push notifications. I don't want any of these things, right? Because I don't want to be disturbed or interrupted. Apple now allows them every time they update their app to go back to factory default. I guess it's not factory default, their own default, and give me all the things I don't want. And I have to spend time going back and resetting every time it happens, or live with it, which is frustrating to me.
That's super frustrating.
It's super frustrating. And it may not be anti-competitive, I guess, but it's in the line of this auto opt-out that you're seeing, right, from your third-party scheduler in competition with Google. I think it's a struggle, man. I think it really is.
Surprised about that by Apple, because Apple thrives on the customer experience and product being the best in the world.
I mean, it's the marketplace for all internet business, right? I mean, for the most part, it's got to be just like how do you eat an elephant type situation, right? It's one bite at a time. This thing is like too big for them to keep their arms around, I would imagine.
Yeah.
Or nobody's complained enough.
I haven't even noticed that yet.
The market, I can delete those apps, but I don't want to delete those apps. I just want them to do what I tell them to do. Anyway, that type A personality coming out. All right, let's move on, Ryan. I think you got a good story here about Twitter and Tucker Carlson.
Yeah, so Tucker Carlson, it's no secret. Fox not working for Fox News anymore, but he's still under contract with them technically, but
supposedly,
yeah.
Who knows at this point?
Don't know, but he did come out and say he's going to relaunch his show on Twitter.
Right.
So Twitter has this new feature for creators, a subscribe button on pages for, I guess really you don't have to put anything out on Twitter unless it's through that exclusive content, but a lot of people use the free part as lead generation, and then they have exclusive content for those people that subscribe. It's a new thing. I think it's doing really well, and Twitter is soon, what they're working on now too is sharing ad revenue with creators. They don't have the technology for that yet. They're building it. So, yeah.
I'm pretty excited for Twitter, the Twitter part. I'm pretty excited about this. I mean, you can't deny Tucker Carlson was something like 4.2 million viewers on average per night. He was, 4 to 5x the ratings of any other cable news host, not just prime time.
And it was in that key demographic of they focus on 25 to 54.
Yeah, 25 to 54, which is the consumers of all the ad revenue, of all the products that pay the most ad revenue. So he was never going to be on the sideline for long. Right, he's too valuable. His contract with Fox was, purported to be upwards of $20 million a year. They're not going to pay him to sit on the sideline. He wasn't technically fired. It doesn't sound like he just was taken off the air. I've heard even that he was still technically an employee, but he's just on some sort of administrative sabbatical. And they're trying to figure out what to do. Fox says they didn't fire him. He says he didn't quit, but nobody knows what's going on. He's just not on the air anymore. There's been rumor that
if they're not paying him anymore, which I don't know if they are, I don't know what legal grounds they have to stand on.
I have no idea. This is all above my pay grade. I mean, there's even rumors that Dominion, it was part of to him coming off the air was specified in the Dominion settlement over that Fox paid out $800 million or something to Dominion, the voting systems company. Regardless. He's a creator in high demand, okay? He's a creator in high demand. He's much maligned. He's a newsmaker, probably put him on the level of maybe 4 to 5 people in the world, right? Joe Rogan probably is another one that make news when they speak. Okay, and so he wasn't going to be on the sidelines for long, and it's a huge get. And get this, Elon says there's no special deal. There's no contract. Currently.
Yeah, I think there will be one.
Maybe there will be, okay? But, they're not a producer. Okay, so Section 230, provides social media platforms protection to where they don't have to be responsible for the things that people say on their platforms. I think that is a serious infringement against that 230 when they start hiring exclusive creators rather than just providing a platform for the creators to thrive. So I don't know. To me, it sounds an awful lot like Substack, right? But not in just written form. It's Substack, but video or audio, or I could see Twitter as the town square that we all know it to be. Becoming the place to go for your podcasting, for your, it's the things that your Rumbles and your, YouTube's trying to compete with Rumble, or Rumble's trying to compete with YouTube, excuse me. I don't know. It's all in one place, right? What do those platforms not have? They don't have the discussion.
Yeah. Well, so I was actually thinking about this last night. The difference between TikTok for me and Instagram. So I think what is so nice about TikTok's two things. There's only one thing to do.
The trolls are different, by the way.
Yeah. But on TikTok, there's only one thing to do. So it's scroll and watch videos. But the second thing is you're not really watching videos of people you know. It's kind of nice not seeing. And I think the problem with Instagram a lot of times it's you're seeing people you know and their stories and making everything seem perfect. That gets exhausting. And TikTok, it's just people you don't know and just videos you enjoy.
Don't care, and they don't care. Yeah, so I have a hard time watching Reels. And it's people I don't know on the Reels, because the Reels algorithm is not necessarily just people you follow.
Yeah.
There's not enough creators of Reels probably for it to just be the people you follow. So I find TikTok infinitely more interesting. For some reason.
Well, it feels like that infinity scroll that it's never going to end.
It's about your expectation of what you're going to get, right? I don't know.
Yeah. All right. I got one final question for you, Jay. We haven't done one of these in a bit, but so I'll tell you where I got this question first. Left you on a little cliffhanger. Barstool Sports, huge listener, part of my take, and at the end of Wednesday's show that they did this week, this was a question at the end, and it was a little different. I made a little radio edit. But what is the largest animal you could beat in a fight with your bare hands? So theirs was like, let's say we'll just say that. Yeah.
You're not going to give me their answers to go off of? What if I say grizzly?
They didn't have any good
What if I
ones.
say grizzly bear?
Well,
nobody's going to believe me.
If anybody listens and knows Big Cat on part of my take, he said he could take anything.
He could take anything. I doubt it.
I'll tell you the most controversial answer they said in the Twitter thread or wherever they got it was kangaroos.
No shot. Kangaroos are vicious.
Box.
They will box you, and they are vicious. You ever see one of those up on those hind legs? I mean, they're 10 feet tall.
Yeah, that movie Kangaroo Jack was a lot more accurate than. So I feel like nobody really saw videos of kangaroos fighting until the last few years.
Speaking of TikTok and animals, have you seen that ostrich whisperer on TikTok? The girl that she is a caretaker for ostrich. I don't think it's ostriches. Is it ostri? Sorry.
I have no idea.
Well, anyway, this thing charges at her, and she just puts up her hand and they stop. And I'm waiting for her to get mauled by an ostrich on video, and it just never happens.
So Lincoln Trail Golf Course.
Great segue.
Yeah. Well, it's an ostrich. They have They used to have an ostrich by 18's Tee that would come over and would eat anything you fed it. So people would just give it teas and it would eat teas.
Oh, so
and
now we're calling PETA.
Yeah, I didn't do that.
You didn't do that. But be clear.
We got off the question.
Okay,
so what's the largest animal?
I have no idea. The largest animal that I could beat in a fight. What's the biggest dog?
See, I think
a Saint Bernard.
The answer is going to be really bad because it's going to be some really big animal that's sweet and has no aggression or something. Because it's just asking what's the largest animal.
I can't go there, man. In a fight, bare hands. This is awful.
Bare hands.
This is really awful. I can't answer this question. This is such a trap. Such a trap. I'm going to go. I really don't know. You've got me stumped.
I'll go.
Let's a giraffe. I could take a
Say
giraffe.
not what I can do, but
That's a big animal.
It is. I don't think you could do that. I'll just go off what I've seen other people do. Alligators.
No shot.
People swim in ponds and catch alligators with their bare hands. It was a TV show.
You're not going to beat an alligator, Ryan.
I'm not. I didn't say
Wait,
me.
you thought I can beat an alligator?
No, I'm saying what I've seen other people do.
Oh, listen at him. He's divesting.
The political answer.
Political answer. What I've heard other people have done before. No, I don't know, man. This is you're right. I can't beat a giraffe, and that would be sad anyway. I keep thinking of Jeffrey the giraffe now from
You just made it worse.
Toys R Us. Oh Lord. All right. Well, I think that's about all the time we got, Ryan. Good finisher.
Yeah, I don't have anything else.
Mic drop. Thank you guys once again for joining in. This is the J-Pitch Show. We are here every Saturday morning on Talk Radio 1080, doing our best to bring you lively content and great questions. I'll try to come up with an answer to Brian's next one. We'll be back next week. Once again, J-Pitch Show, Talk Radio 1080, real news, real talk. We'll see you soon.